It's a beautiful day in the gamerhood, a beautiful day for my gamers. Would you be one? Could you be one? It's out about thunder, but don't despair. This colony's breeding great robbers. Would you be one? Could you be one? If the 80% mortality rate works for you, for a few bucks a month you can sign up and have the Hobbs kill you. So let's make the most of another Sunday. Brew up some coffee and play it my way. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my gamers? Won't you please, won't you be my gamers?
Hey everybody, welcome to the Gamerhood. Today is not another game, it is another episode of Hobbs and Friends recorded live on the Twitch and the YouTubes. So, I got an awesome guest, someone you guys have seen multiple times at the old Gamerhood. It is none other than my man, Arlen Walker. How's it going, Arlen?
It is good. It is going well for me.
That's exciting. So, just to let you know, we are recording because it's Twitch and YouTube, but this isn't what we're going to turn in at the actual podcast. This is just the pre-show. And sometimes people get a little raucous about doing a pre-show. So everybody, this is your time to talk to us before the show starts. And then we will do the actual podcast and not interact with the chat whatsoever. And then we'll do a post show where we'll answer any questions or anything else that you guys have out there today. So, and I don't know who's out there unless they chat or they put something in the chat. You got anybody at the YouTubes, buddy?
Fred Daniels showed up.
Fred Daniels, that guy is legit. He's our guy at the Gamerhood and on the YouTubes.
Nice. Yeah, he's one of my limited number of YouTube subscribers. So
I hear you, man. I think that'll change when you start doing more stuff and getting some more stuff out there. I mean, I don't have a huge number of subscribers either, to be honest. So
yeah,
it's what it is, right?
Yeah, and I didn't expect it to get super big, to be honest. A niche of a niche, so
right. Right. So what do you think? You like this layout?
Yeah, it looks good.
Looks like kind of what we normally do on this, but I got it bigger so people can see it a little better. Hopefully, I've been watching some other people's. I suppose this is called a live stream. It's not actually. I was told it's not a vlog. It's a live stream. That's what Dr. Gillespie told me when I called his show a blog on accident. It's like it's on a blog. I'm like, I meant to say vlog, but it auto-corrected to blog. And he's like, no. A vlog is one person. And
I think a lot of vlogs are pre-recorded versus live often.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying.
Podcasts just sort of talk to the camera versus interact with the chat and all that.
Unless you're me. Because I don't script anything. I'm terrible about scripting. If I was going to write, I'd write. If I'm going to talk to the camera, I'm going to talk to the camera. He also said that my last random screed was monologuing bullshit. I don't blame him.
Back and forth.
Yeah, I don't blame him. I'm actually going to be on his show, OSR Blether, on Monday. So we'll see what happens there. We'll duke it out from Toronto to Northern Illinois and see. Does Fred have anything to say over there or what? What's going on?
Just good luck with the Libram Society kickoff.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. I've been talking about that in the Gamerhood for a few days now. I don't know. I guess I've been streaming all the way back to Thursday. I skipped Thursday last week, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This would be 8 out of 9 days of streaming on the Gamerhood, I think.
Nice.
Oh, nope. 7, because Night Below I did. So, anyway, anybody got anything to say, or do you think we should just get going? I don't have any messages on the chat. People are filtering in, though. So some people must have saw our adverts, and they're filtering in. They haven't said hello yet, so I don't know what's going on. Fred Daniel has one over on everybody else. He's the first. I feel like your name should be bigger, man. What do you think?
My name?
Yeah, it's longer than mine. But I can move these over here. That looks pretty good. Hey, Spell Sword Studios is here. It's almost like he's handing over the crown to you, Arlen, since he was on episode 69.
Nice. Oh, that's...
Now you got it?
I didn't do that intentionally, but yeah.
Good to see you, Spell Sword Studios. I hope some more people bought your product and have signed up for your new Kickstarter. I know I am going to, though I haven't done it yet.
Oh, we've got in the YouTube Maurice Walsh, who I believe is our buddy Mo.
Hey, Mo. I didn't even know he was out. He was there.
Yeah. It says just popped on to say hi. So, hi, Mo.
Yeah, Mo. Good to see you, buddy. That's awesome. Pretty impressed. Oh, Jesus. I jumped up to 7 people now. It says 7. I don't really know how many that is, but I'm glad to hear that, Spell Sword Studios. I have got a lot of messages, guys, about people being very happy that Hobbs and Friends is back, because it did go a couple months really without anything happening. I really focused a lot of energy and creative time on making this better and like making it multi-stream to YouTube and really working on that to try and achieve that goal of 1,000 YouTube subscribers in 2021. So I don't know if it'll happen or not, but maybe the Libram Society will help. We shall see. We shall see, my man. All right, you got any messages or anything? Or should we just go ahead and get this thing going?
I think it is time to start the show.
All right, so we're going to go for about approximately 40 minutes, and then we'll have a post show, and I hope you guys all stick around for that, because we got a hard stop at 8, because I got to play a D&D game over at Dungeon Musers. All right, so like I say, I'm going to start, and I'm going to redo the whole beginning. We don't have to play the music again, I guess, because he can add that. So my man can add that. Let me move this over here so I can keep an eye on what the heck's going on. All right, fun stuff, man. This is exciting. All right, so I'm going to take another drink of water. Now it's time for your real voice to be important, because that's all we have is voices, no sounds. All right, here we go. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Hobbs and Friends, episode number 70. I am your host, Jason Hobbs, and I'm thrilled to already be on the mics again. It was only like a week or so ago, and we're back at Gamerhood Studios, bringing you another Hobbs and Friends. We got a very special guest for you, as always. I don't know if he may be as well known as many of my guests, but that certainly doesn't diminish in any way how awesome that he is. So he is another podcaster, and his show is called Live from Pelam's Wasteland. He's none other than Arlen Walker. What's up, my man?
Not much. Glad to be here.
That was a pretty big introduction. Were you surprised?
I was a little surprised. Well, and you have a lot of guys who have a lot of like publishing credits and things like that, and I've got my rinky-dink little podcast. So, it's a little bit of expansion going on in the introduction compared to some of the people who.
I don't know if I would ever call your show rinky dink. It doesn't seem to give the heady topics justice, my man.
Well, that's very kind of you to say.
All right. Do you want to say anything? Why don't you, because for some people who may listen to this episode may not even have never heard of Live from Pelam's Wasteland, you want to give them a boilerplate about it?
Yeah, so Live from Pelam's Wasteland is the name of both my Anchor podcast and my YouTube channel, both of them being basically just a collection of whatever stuff I'm interested in that is generally related to gaming. I do kind of gaming theory stuff. I do some gaming overviews, talk about like games that I'm really interested in, or kind of review stuff. Do some stuff kind of similar to what we were talking about with the Libram Society, where I recommend books or say like, hey, this is something you should read because it's a really good example of this kind of like a concept in gaming or a sort of theme or something like that. So, and then it's really, it's very off the cuff, rambly. I just sort of talk about stuff that interests me. And if you're interested in those things, you will find it interesting. And if not, you probably won't be interested in it. But that's okay, because it's very much just me.
I think that's almost any podcast or YouTube channel, really. I guess I shouldn't say it. It's definitely what all my stuff is as well. It's mostly me. All right. Yeah. I'm very, very fortunate of having a lot of people I know or have met in the industry, and then that was enough to introduce me to more and more and more, and then that just kind of built on that circle of friends. So pretty awesome. Now let's talk about how we know each other, and I think we met playing games with Kevin Madison, the Dungeon Muser. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, way back when, like 2 years ago now, we were in that original Ash crew for the Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea, Reavers of Thule campaign, and then Hobbs wussed out and doesn't play that game anymore.
Well, that the original game you were in, right? That was like the prelude to that game, even, right?
There was a prelude to that game, and then there's the sort of campaign that's been going for a while now that Kevin runs, and then we sort of connected back up with the AD&D Second Edition stuff that Kevin runs now, Night Below and Legacy of the Crystal Shard. And then we've done a couple of sort of one-off things together. We did that Mutants and Masterminds game one time, and I think we did a Sword and Scoundrel character creation thing where I made you go through character creation without knowing anything about what any of the stuff meant, and
it was awesome.
Yeah, so we've done a couple things together, and we're going to do more stuff together now because we've got this Libram Society thing that is coming up.
That's correct. I don't know how many times you can say Libram Society before we actually talk about it, but we're going to hold off a little bit longer because now it's time for the weekly gaming briefly. You want to go first?
Sure. So I haven't made as many sessions as I would like recently just because of some kind of personal health stuff, but I play AD&D Second Edition with Kevin Madison of Dungeon Musings and his crew. He runs AD&D Second Edition on Wednesday nights and Friday nights and Sunday afternoons and some Saturday mornings. And then I also play in the Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea campaign on the other Saturday mornings. And then there's sort of my stuff that I do, which is I run a game for my family. My mother and father and little sister and grandfather all play in an Adventures in Middle-earth 5e game that I run for them. on Thursday nights, and I do what has become a just new Shadow the Demon Lord campaign that I run on alternate Saturdays. We used to play Sword and Scoundrel, which is a Riddle of Steel, like it's a game that is descended from the Riddle of Steel, with some changes, some shifting, some of that sort of stuff. But we have shifted to Shadow the Demon Lord. We just did our level 0 session this past Saturday, so that was a lot of fun. And then I do a little bit of kind of solo stuff, solo play, kind of like Iron Sworn or some of those other games, just kind of me hanging out, rolling some dice, and telling stories by myself, which is fun. It's kind of an interesting. It's sort of something that I started doing way back at the beginning of the pandemic because I was bored a lot, and now I just do a little bit of that, kind of on an irregular schedule. But it's fun as a way to sort of almost like a creative writing exercise.
That's what it seems like when you talk about it. That reminds me, I think Zach Pierce and I actually played Iron Sworn with you once, or made characters or something as well.
Yeah, we did. We did a little bit of Iron Sworn, and that was fun. I wouldn't GM Iron Sworn again because there's nothing for the GM to do because it's such a good solo game. It kind of goes through and just tells the story without the GM having to be involved basically at all. Which is really good when you're playing solo, but not so much fun when you're the GM and you're just sort of sitting there while other people play the game.
Yeah, no kidding. And I think a lot of the Hobbs goblins out there would be very happy to learn that first session of the Shadow of the Demon Lord campaign was a TPK, right?
Was, yeah. I filled up. Everybody had multiple characters even because I was planning on doing a sort of funnel, and then I lost one of the guys. Had to run about halfway through the session. He had to pick his daughter up from a thing. So then I only had 2 guys left. So I was like, well, let's sort of lean into the kind of growing darkness element. And so I added a couple more skeletons to the final encounter, and it turned out to be much deadlier than I anticipated. But it was a lot of fun, and the guys seemed to enjoy it a lot. And it was a good way to emphasize the kind of dangerous world element of Shadow of the Demon Lord. The idea that your character is not a superhero until they get to 6th or 7th level. They're very much a fragile, regular being at 0 or 1st level who can be taken down by 2 or 3 skeletons pretty easily.
Yeah, I have done a few episodes of Hobbs and Friends about Shadow of the Demon Lord with Kevin Madison and Jared Rasher. So if you want to hear my take on the Shadow of the Demon Lord, hit the backlog, guys. Check it out. Go look into that. So as previously mentioned, I play in Kevin Madison or the Dungeon Musers 2nd edition AD&D game on Wednesday, Friday, every other Saturday, and Sunday. That's the Night Below campaign and the Legacy of the Crystal Shard campaign. We've talked about that at length since we're nearing 100 sessions on the Night Below game, and we're going to be playing that tonight at 8 p.m. at Dungeon Musers channel. So both Arlen and I are in the game. Are you going to play tonight, Arlen?
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
I had kind of a long day, so we're going to see how I feel at the end of. If you grill me on Hobbs and Friends, it'll be your fault for.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. It's always my fault anyway. All right. So I also run 2 or 3 old school essential campaigns. One on Tuesday nights, White Sands, and one on Thursday nights, the North March, and then my legendary Kalmata game, which will show up anytime. And I've already ran Kalmata 3 or 4 times in January, so there's been a resurgence in the Kalmata game, which is pretty cool. And then on Sunday mornings, I run a 4-hour game of low fantasy gaming called Chronicle of the Cursed Axe. That's a good group. It's what I call my Green River Gamers Association group, which is kind of my family group. But now we also have Jason Weebs, the zombie cowboy, in there, and Sean P. Kelly from Gaming and BS. I think it's because the majority of my family are a bunch of Luddites, and they don't want to play online. So there's that. The only other game that I've been playing is another LFG game on Saturday nights with Mr. Mean. You can go check out Mr. Mean on his YouTube channel. We are playing Low Fantasy Gaming. I am one of the players, as well as Nasser, Super Beast 1980 from... dang it, he just told me last night, or where he lived, or maybe it was Monday night. I don't remember. It's not Dubai though, but it's over by there. So when he's on the show watching, he's very late. And the other two are a married couple that are behind the blog and YouTube channel Angels Citadel. So you guys should go check those things out. I really enjoy playing games with all three of them. Nasser is really involved in the Gulf Players Association, which is like a huge gaming club in the Middle East. And I mean, when I say huge, it's like thousands of people are in it. So it's pretty cool. I think that's about it. Let's get into everything about you. I'm pretty sure you've listened to Hobbs and Friends before, Arlen, so you know what's coming.
I've listened a couple times, but my mind is blank right now.
That's it? You've only listened to 2 Hobbs and Friends show? That's it.
I've listened to like 4 or 5.
I need another guest. Anybody? No, I'm just kidding, Arlen. So it's a segment of the show where we tell our listeners something about ourselves that they don't know. I didn't do an episode 1 where I told everyone all about me and what Hobbs and Friends was about. I've done it every episode since in this segment, and then hopefully the guest may have something they want to tell about themselves. Like some people talk about their jobs or talk about when they were a professional wrestler or, whatever.
Cool. Yeah, I can do that.
Go ahead.
All right. So in college, I went to Rice University and double majored in ancient Mediterranean civilizations and English. And for my sophomore and junior years, I was the only ancient Mediterranean civilizations major in the entire school.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's so Rice is very STEM focused by itself, so the humanities departments are pretty small already. And then Ancient Mediterranean Civilizations was a sort of small subset of the Classics department. So I got to be the only one for 2 years. And then I recruited 2 other students in my senior year. So I sort of kept the major alive. And yeah, that was pretty cool. They funded me to go to Bulgaria and do archaeology 1 year. So over the summer. So it was a great experience and all that sort of stuff, but it was kind of cool to be the only one.
Sounds pretty interesting. I'm surprised we don't have like more like Mesopotamian stuff or something, but maybe we'll talk and be able to get more into that into the Libram Society. Yeah. Nice, man. Thank you. That's a great one. So as for myself, I was just talking to an ex-Hobbs Goblin. I mean, still a Hobbs Goblin. I shouldn't say ex, but one of my buddies, Medium, we'll call him, and he had mentioned something that the gamerhood is really only about old school gaming and the old school style of play. I am a huge proponent of all styles of gaming and play. I even used to poo-poo board gaming, but over COVID time, I played a lot of board games with my man Aaron Clark and his buddies over in their Discord channel on Board Game Arena. So I don't poo-poo anything, and the more games I get to play and the more styles of games I get to play, I'm down with that. So don't think I even got rid of the OSR on the name of this show. It wasn't only because of maybe the asparagus tossed on that name, but also because I didn't want to limit myself just to OSR gaming. I would say that's probably what I know best, and anything I do, I'm going to compare to that. But that isn't all that I am for sure, and that isn't all that this show is. I mean, we've had WebDM on the show. We've had a bunch of people like JDR and DM Dave, and hopefully more. I would like to branch out more. So if anyone's listening and they want to be on the show, let me know. I'm down with it. All right, man. I think it's time to get into the main topic. Rich, Jerry247, hit the main topic music. All right, so as we've been spoiling all week in the last few days and on our podcasts and on Twitch channels, Arlen and I are beginning a new project. I'll go first, Arlen. So it's called the Libram Society. It has spawned from my wish for a couple of years now of wanting to do a book review show specifically about Malazan, Book of the Fallen, by Steven Erikson, and another author is Ian Esselmont. Arlen has kindly stepped up to the plate and agreed to do it, and we've been discussing formats and what it might be like. So for this Hobbs and Friends, we thought it might be fun to actually give you a teaser of what the Libram Society would look like. You got anything to add to that, Arlen?
I think I can add a little bit just by saying so the plan is every Wednesday to talk about either a chunk of one of Steven Erikson's books in the Malazan Book of the Fallen, and then who knows, we may go on to Ian Esselmont's books after. It's going to take us a long time to get through Steven Erikson's books.
A very long time.
And alternate that with something else, something we've sort of latched onto the idea of like a short story or a novella or something that's kind of easier to catch up with us doing that, and especially to have guests on. That I think we're both really interested in the idea of having other people who want to talk about the books, about what they liked, what they don't like, the sort of analysis of thematic stuff and how the what it all means and all that, and gaming also I think is one of our ideas to talk a little bit about, like, well, how would you say, like, well, this scene is really interesting, how would you mechanically go about structuring something to create the feel of that scene, something like that. I think is something that we're both interested in, at least a little bit.
Oh, I'm totally interested in that. I love the magic system in Malazan, Book of the Fallen, and so that's definitely something I think we'll get into and try and decipher, and then consider different systems or different methods of doing that. So, absolutely, yeah. So today we're going to do the prologue of Gardens of the Moon, which is the first Malazan Book of the Fallen book. And then next week, we're going to do the first book. So each of Erikson's books are separated into other books. I think we're going to do 2 books, right? I guess maybe I'm jumping ahead. Let's talk more about what the show looks like. Or do you think we should just do the show? Because, I mean, maybe we should just do the show. Let's just do it, and then it's a work in progress. So anybody has any thoughts or ideas about it, we'd love to hear them. We'll go over our details and ways to get in touch with us, and I'll probably make an email just for the show and whatever. I don't know if we'll do a whole. I'm mostly going to post it through my Hobbs and Friends methods until later. Maybe we might decide to get its own website or whatever. We don't know. We don't even know how good it's going to do. We're doing it for us, and hopefully you guys enjoy it too. All right, let's get into it. I'm actually got my book right here.
I've got the Kindle edition.
Right. Oh, nice.
I've got my physical book buried under a bunch of other books from when my parents showed up with a bunch of boxes of books and said, "We got these from your room. You get to get them now." So
awesome.
Somewhere buried in there, and I'll get it out for next time.
All right, perfect.
Time to grab it.
So, like I said, it's Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson. We're going to do a reading first because every chapter, almost every new anything in Steven Erikson's works has like a poem or an excerpt in the front of it. Like there's a poem that starts this first book, what I think is like supposed to be foreshadowing or almost an edda of all of the books. Is that what you think about this introductory poem? Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Okay.
It's designed to kind of get us thinking about what the whole thing is going to be about. Really.
Yeah, and I have to admit, the first time I read these, I just I didn't always read them. You know what I'm saying? So part of the poems are like they're almost like they help with rereading this stuff. It's almost like a replayability in a video game, right? That's what it felt like to me. And I can tell you, I've read this Gardens of the Moon book a few times now. Not the entire all 10 books of Malazan Book of the Fallen, but Gardens of the Moon. And I always say, hey, I'm going to really get into these poems and read every one of them and kind of dig deep into them, and never do. I do the first, 10 or 20, but after then it's just like, I want to get to the next page and that's it. I don't want to mess with it, but I'm really interested. You want to read this one, Arlen?
Sure. Now these ashes have grown cold. We open the old book. These oil-stained pages recount the tales of the fallen, a frayed empire, words without warmth. The hearth has ebbed. Its gleam and life's sparks are but memories against dimming eyes. What cast my mind, what hue my thoughts, as I open the book of the fallen and breathe deep the scent of history. Listen then to these words carried on that breath. These tales are the tales of us all, again yet again. We are history relived, and that is all. Without end, that is all.
All right, man. Well done. Well done. So I think this is like a theme that you'll see all through I don't want to talk too much about the books to the future, but I definitely believe this says like this theme that you see, that it's civilization built upon civilization, built upon civilization, and history repeats itself over and over and over. Is that pretty much what this says to you?
That's hearing this, and it's throughout all of what Erickson has written, I think.
I have to say, honestly, this is the theme of the emergent empires as well. This is in the theme of as my setting and almost all of the games that I run. This is a very strong theme in those games.
Yeah, it's really, in many ways, I think there's a very classical element to this theme, that it's something that we've seen in a lot of fantasy literature. I mean, even, for instance, the Howardian sword and sorcery is kind of built on this concept that there are ages past and ages present, that there's just sort of an almost unending stretch of fallen civilizations that have come before. And then Lord of the Rings, obviously, Lord of the Rings is really, basically an elegy for all these ages that have come before that are now coming to an end with this one particular moment. And plenty of other, those are just the two that kind of jump out to me, because those, to me, speak to kind of the two principal kind of directions of fantasy literature. That one of them is the sort of pulpy stuff that you get with Howard, and one of them is the sort of the particular flavor of something
Epic.
like Rings, epic fantasy. Yes.
Yeah, I would agree. Who I was just trying to think of who's the other guy that people usually consider with Howard. It's like two initials and a name. I don't know why it's not coming to me right now, but
H.P. Lovecraft.
No, not H.P. Lovecraft, but he kind of does the same thing. But what's that? Say it again.
Clark Ashton Smith.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking of. Clark Ashton Smith. Definitely a very similar idea in a lot of his stories as well as this. Well, I mean, that's the whole Lemuria, Hyperborea, Atlantis. All those are civilizations that fell, and then the adventures that they created long after their fall. So that's a pretty cool poem. Well done. Is there anything else we need to say about it?
I will just point out, breathe deep the scent of history seems to me like if there's one line in this poem that speaks to what the series is about. There's all of this stuff here, but this kind of sense that you are not just learning about the history, but you are immersed in the midst of all of this history. And I think that kind of speaks to, in some ways, it's easy to connect that to Erickson's background as an archaeologist, because that is very much what I think archaeology is about, with my experience, that it's a sort of immersion as opposed to the sort of distance that history can sometimes take when we read about it in books or things like that.
Yeah, man, that's excellent. And it also kind of harkens back to the idea in Lord of the Rings that it's this old book that was written and now someone's reading it again. I feel like it ties it to that. I don't really feel like this feels like an epic tale. I would put most of the book. It is obviously, but it doesn't feel the same because it doesn't recount like an individual person's journey, right? So I don't know if it. I don't even know what genre Book of the Fallen fits into. I think the books kind of just kind of sidle among some different subgenres as they go: military, fantasy, and epic fantasy. Some high fantasy. Some of it isn't necessarily that high. Sword and sorcery, kind of more. So it really does a lot. All right, let's move on to the opening measure or poem for this whole book, I guess, right? It's called Call to Shadow, and it's written by Felison. The Emperor is dead. So too his right hand, now cold, now severed. But mark these dying shadows, twinned and flowing, bloody and beaten, down and away from mortal sight. From scepter's rule dismissed, from gild candelabra the light now fled, from a hearth ringed in hard jewels. 7 years this warmth has bled. The Emperor is dead. So too his mastered companion, the rope cut clean. But mark this burgeoning return, faltering dark, the tattered shroud, embracing children in empire's dying light. Hear now the dirge faint reprised. Before the sun's fall, this day spills red on buckled earth, and in obsidian eyes vengeance chimes 7 times. All right. What do you think about this? I mean, obviously, a main theme of this book is the Emperor dying, I would say.
It's sort of the kind of shadow event that is kind of hovering over everything that happens in the book, right? It's never, we don't get the moment on screen, if I remember, ever in kind of film terms, but we do have sort of the aftermath of this event is kind of a lot of this stuff that happens on the kind of grand scale is based on the aftermath of, and not even always on the grand scale, as we're gonna kind of find out about the way that sort of different individuals have a different relationship to what has happened, right? That depending upon their position, kind of earlier or later in the arc of the Empire's rise and its decline, that they have a different position and a different stronger than an opinion. Really, it's really more like a sort of outlook on the way that the Empire has developed and the way that it continues to develop under.
What happened, man?
I went out of the. It said I was inactive.
Never seen that before.
Turn on camera.
There you go. You're back. Yep, you're good.
Hey, cool. Sorry about that.
We'll edit it out. Go on.
But yeah, what I'm getting at, I think, is and there's a lot of, as we will go on, we should probably come back to this poem because there's a number of kind of clever
throwbacks
in here about what happens later.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a good foreshadowing of maybe what's going on. All right. Yeah. So, do you have like a favorite line from it or anything like that?
I don't know. Although I will say that the kind of 4-line section from Scepter's rule dismissed, from gild candelabra the light now fled, from a hearth ringed in hard jewels, 7 years this warmth has bled, sounds to me very much like an Old English poem that Tolkien revised sort of to write. it's famous in The Lord of the Rings because it's stated in "Where now the horse and the rider? Where is the horn that was blowing?" and all of that, which is actually based on an Old English poem called "The Wanderer" that has been translated a number of times. But it seems to me that it's very much in that theme, this kind of the emptiness and the missing signs of a deceased or fallen person who used to be really important to the speaker.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the prologue is all of like 4 pages, right? It's not very long.
Yeah,
And
it's not very long.
it's basically, and a lot of times Erickson will also put like almost like a header across that kind of tells you, like in some shows, like when you change locations, it'll tell you where and when you are, in case, you know, the scenes go back in time or forward in time or whatever, just to help you keep it straight. So 1154th year of Burns' sleep, 96th year of the Malazan Empire, the last year of Emperor Kellanved's reign. So this prologue, how are we going to talk about it? I guess I don't even know how we start.
I think we start by saying what's kind of in the prologue, which is we have Ganos Peran of House Peran, or Peran. I don't know how you pronounce.
I don't either. We'll look it up.
Okay. And he is sort of our viewpoint figure for this sequence, and he's going to become very important later, of course. But he's essentially the viewpoint figure for this sequence. We also have an unnamed figure, the bridge burner officer, who doesn't have a name, although I think there's some clues later on as to who this is.
Yeah.
And then we have one of his soldiers, and we have the woman who, if she is not technically Empress yet, will be Empress very soon, Lacine, and a couple of her people. And we're really, I think, in addition to kind of these characters, we're set up in a lot of ways for what this story is going to be about, by saying that it is these characters witnessing violence and collapse, that they're watching a section of the city burn down, essentially, during riots. And,
Yeah. And we get to see like how the different people feel about this particular riot. And not only are they just watching a riot, they're like in the place that used to be an important, where the capital of the empire began. This is like the capital, and they're in the hold that, you know, they used to use for that purpose. And we don't necessarily know that from this, but there's tons of like, you know, fallback scenes, or this kind of like sets that stage of what it'll be like. I actually found an image on the internet that I'm showing for those of you who watch this on YouTube. So pretty cool. I tried to find out where the image was done or from who did it, but I couldn't find it. Oh, I got a cat in here knocking my mic around. Cleo's making her presence known on Hobbs and Friends again. So, do you have a particular character, like if you're going to delve a little deeper into the characters as seen just in this scene or in these few pages, who would it be?
I think for me it's Ganos Peran. And particularly, so I first read these books when I was in high school.
A year ago?
Not a little longer than that, but when I reread the prologue, it jumped out at me. I remember his line, "The world doesn't need another wine merchant," and I remember how powerful that felt to me when I was younger and kind of thinking about what I wanted to do with my own life and all of that sort of stuff. So I think that has remained with me in a way that I wouldn't have necessarily been able to call up without the aid of the book, but that has an important meaning.
I thought And it also kind of showed how proud of himself Ganos was that he said it, right?
Absolutely. He what does he say? That even a boy can make a point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. I would say, first off, I really think you get a vision of how vividly painted a lot of the scenes are going to be, but most of the time in a lot less words than it might have taken Tolkien or some other people, in my opinion. You don't necessarily, it's not as bogged down in detail, but it's still pretty vivid detail nonetheless. And I think maybe it is because of those constant scenes of violence and that sort of thing. I had a particular thing that I thought was really interesting. It would be, it's right here when he's talking two different things, and it would probably be the unknown commander of the bridge burners would be the character that I most enjoyed or liked, especially with the dialogue that he said. You want to live free, boy, live quietly. He's basically saying, if you want to be free and without the trappings of society, don't try and be anyone. Just, I mean, maybe I'm reading into it, but I certainly think that's what he's saying. And I can relate to that even today, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to live free and be able to say whatever you want, whenever you want, don't be famous or don't do podcasts, don't do whatever, because there's always going to be someone out there trying to manipulate what you do because of your voice or your platform even. Maybe that's a little strong. I don't know, but that's what it says to me. So I really like that.
So really well for the kind of I think Erickson, and we'll talk a lot more about this as we go through the episodes, but Erickson I think has a really good ear for the kind of gnomic statements that are common to like war reporting and things like that. What do men and women who have been through violence, who are not力classically eloquent, but are able to say a lot in a few words. What do they sound like? And to me, the old commander definitely has that quality to him.
And he has another line in here that I loved. Taking up the sword is the last act of desperate men.
Yep.
Because he's basically trying to convince, Ganos to not become a soldier, what he so badly wants to do. So I was really fond of those two lines. And like you say, commonly, I'm an old, grizzled veteran myself. Not a veteran of any wars or armies, but I just mean I'm old, really. And so I feel like you get tired of speaking with a lot of words about things that is advice you've given so many times. And so you've kind of just pared it down to these little bits that most of the time the people don't get anyway. But if they do, then it'll maybe last with them for a long period of time. If you give someone, a 1,000-word soliloquy, they're not going to remember that. But if you give someone like a cutting, biting, 10-word, 5 words, 8 words, they may be able to like pin a life mantra on that almost,
Yeah. Well, that's really I'm most familiar with it from reading things like Michael Hare's Dispatches, for instance, which is a piece of war reporting on the Vietnam War, and it's full of statements like this. This I think is, and that's I think part of what Erickson is getting at, is this sense of this is how people who have been through the shit, for lack of a better term, this is often how they talk. Mm-hmm. That's part of how he's drawing these characters, and there's a lot of characters that will have this kind of particular voice. Not in the sense that they have all the same voice, but they all have this kind of same quality to the way they speak.
Yeah, that's super cool. I guess when I was talking about like in the old school gaming era or community or movement or whatever, a lot of times they talk about giving like small details that you can fill in later. And I think Erickson does that in little bits. He'll like drop things and then not really explain them at all, but then you might find out about them later. Like he mentions the Corel Wars very early. And I don't even know what the core, obviously the new reader will not know what they are, but it happens constantly throughout all the books where he'll introduce characters, he'll mention things, he'll mention cultures, civilizations, eras, all these different battles all over. And you don't even know, you hear about Dasim Ultor that was dead and supposedly he betrayed a god. He doesn't really go into it. He doesn't explain it here because in the dialogue they wouldn't. These characters aren't going to explain that. It's a little kid and some commander, of some forces. The wax witches, he mentions, and I felt like that was really visceral. Wax witches. What does that even mean,
Well, that's, if I can read just a tiny bit from it, when the other bridge burner comes up and says, speaks to him and says, so the commander, he says, she's taking a new name, Lacine. Lacine, Napan word, means, I know what it means. Hope the Emperor does too. Gano said it means throne master. And what a great way he's introduced us to the kind of whatever the Napan are. Seems like they're a culture. And created kind of 3 characters that have a really strong sense of what they're like, right? The way that we understand the relationship between these 2 bridge burners. We also know a lot about Ganos from interrupting and knowing what the word means. That's something pretty significant too. There's a whole lot kind of, and that's something that I think Erickson does really well throughout the books. Is he has these moments where he just packs so much. And doesn't kind of info dump. He gives you characterization alongside information about the world in a smooth way.
Yeah, and if you could take that and do that in your games as a game master, can you just consider how valuable that would be, It's pretty dang awesome. All right, I think we're running out of time pretty quickly, so do we got any last things we want to finish? I feel like we killed it all, didn't we? So next Wednesday, we're reading the first 2 books, or we're going to talk about the first 2 books of Gardens of the Moon, which is about 186 pages. So you got a week to read that. Book 1 is called Pale, and then book 2 is called Darujistan. So check that out. And the week, so that would be the 16th. No, the 17th, because today's the 10th. So February 17th, we're going to do the first 2 books of Gardens of the Moon. And then the 24th, why don't you say what we're going to do?
Yeah, so on the 24th, we have a collection of short stories by William Morris, which is called On Golden Wings, that we both have copies of, and hopefully you'll get a copy of too, so that you can read along with us. It's shorter, it's like 160 pages, and each of the individual stories, we may not talk about all the stories in it, we may decide to focus on one story once we've read through it once, just to...
I think that's the plan, yeah.
Depth. But yeah, we're going to read some William Morris and talk about kind of the roots of fantasy literature in its infancy in some ways with William Morris, one of the first people kind of recognized as a writer of fantasy literature that isn't, Chrétien de Troyes or Thomas Mallory.
Yeah, and that's one thing I should add. The Libram Society is not going to do any Appendix N books. I feel like there's already a show called Appendix N Podcast that takes care of all that. We don't need to do that. Jeff Goad, Hoy, and their guests do a great job of that. So there's been enough about the Appendix N books and reviewing them and discussing them. So we're not doing any of those. If you guys want to know that, check those guys out. They're great. They do a wonderful job of it. If you want to see this show, what we're going to do is you're going to have the highbrow Arlen Walker talking about using his university studies in literature and talking about books in a very educated way. And then you're going to have the lowbrow, the oil boss, El Jefe Petroleo, Jason Hobbs, doing it in just like the layman's terms of what he enjoys or why he enjoys it. And hopefully, if you can't relate to one, you can relate to the other. And at the same time, we really want to involve you guys who are going to listen to the Libram Society and be on the Twitch or the YouTube and let us know what you think. give us your comments, give us your thoughts. Maybe you have a different character you're really into and want to talk about that. And maybe we'll have guests during the Malazan stuff too. I don't know. It's all a work in progress, but we just thought it would be a really cool idea to give you a teaser on Hobbs and Friends. And that would be, that's pretty much the whole concept of the Libram Society. I hope you guys like it. Let's move on. You don't get to do a legacy or epitaph because this show really wasn't about the old school Arlen. So we skipped that and just did the Libram Society session 1. So let's get into the patrons. So every episode of Hobbs and Friends, I like to give a shout out to 3 patrons. The first one is Aaron Wade. He is one of the players in the Green River Gamers Association. So it's very generous of him to get in there and, donate or support the show and the effort. So Aaron, I really appreciate it. Like I said, I'm never going to say your nickname that I gave you when we were in grade school together. This is how long I've known Aaron Wade. We fell apart after high school, so I hadn't talked to him in 20, 30 years, and then got him into this game, so he plays, and so that's cool. I'm not even going to say it now. That's for you, Aaron, buddy. Thanks for being a patron. I appreciate it. Next up, Mark Grehan, who I think came from Jay's Vanishing Tower Press stuff. He watches all the YouTube videos. He watches all of the Dungeon Musing videos. I wouldn't be surprised, Arlen, if he's one of your subscribers. No?
Yeah, he may well be.
Yeah. So he also won in the raffle on Dungeon Musers. He won the big prize, the Platinum Beetle and Grimm stuff last year. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, thanks, Mark, for being a patron. Last up, Joe Salvador, the mastermind behind Eldritch Tales and the publishing company Raven God Games. Thanks so much for being a patron. Joe is going to be on the show and tell us all about Eldritch Tales and Call of Cthulhu, hopefully soon. I've been trying to get him on for a year, and it just hasn't worked out. So that's awesome. If you want to be a patron and want to support this show, the Gamerhood, the Libram Society, Random Screed, any of that, we are spending money like it is water. not that bad. And if it puts you into a situation, absolutely don't support the shows. But if you have it and you really enjoy the stuff that I do and we do on the Gamerhood, then feel free to support. It's patreon.com/OSRN Hobbs. If someone wanted to get a hold of you and pluck your high brows, Arlen, how could they do it?
So the various ways I have my Anchor podcast, which is anchor.fm/Pelam's Wasteland is the name. Search YouTube for Live from Pelam's Wasteland for the YouTube channel. I'm on Twitter at Cows from Powys. And that'll be in the show notes, I'm sure, because
you put it in there. Anything you want in there, put it in there, brother. I couldn't find your Twitter today. I was trying to tag you when I did this show, but I couldn't remember what it was. I kept looking up Pelam, Arlen Walker. No go.
No. Yeah, and then I'm on a whole bunch of Discords, including the Gamerhood Discord that Hobbs runs, and you can get a hold of me just, at Arlen Walker on there, and I'll respond.
Awesome. So I am at OSRN Hobbs on the Twitters, and then you can also get me through my private account at Hobbs Indeed. I also have Facebook pages and groups, Hobbs and Friends, HNF Facebook, which is where I try to post all the videos or sometime multi-stream too. And then there is also a Random Screed Facebook if you're interested in my personal journey podcast on Anchor. Then you can reach me on YouTube Jason Hobbs, or Twitch /Hobbs665. And as Arlen mentioned, the Gamerhood Discord. Arlen, you got any last words before we wrap up this podcast?
No, thanks for having me, Jason. I'm super excited about the Libram Society. I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Me too. Remember, everybody, you've all got jobs to do, and it's better to burn out than to fade away. Hit it, TJ. All right, guys. So that was the Hobbs and Friends number 70. All of the information. Don't leave that website yet, if you don't mind, Arlen, until I get the files from it. But why don't we're still on the Gamerhood here with you guys. It seems like we had some questions. If anybody is in the chat and you have any questions about Arlen, any of the podcasts, or even more specifically Gardens of the Moon or the Libram Society, let us know. I'm in chat now. I do not know who Old Golden Hen is, but I am very interested to find out. Hey, Eric Thomas Hunt. Thanks for swinging through, man. I appreciate it. Arlen, it looks like Kustash has a question for you in the Twitch stream. What is your degree in literature-related stuff?
So for my bachelor's, I double majored in ancient Mediterranean civilizations and English literature, and graduated magna cum laude. So that's cool. And I won an award actually through the English department at Rice, which there were only like 30 of us in the graduating class for the English department, because Rice is kind of already a sort of small private school, and the humanities departments at Rice are very small because it's more STEM focused. But
what does that mean? STEM focused? STEM focused?
STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Rice just has a reputation as being a really good school for people who want to be engineers or physicists or mathematicians or anything like that. So a lot of the students, the proportion of the student body is like 70% STEM majors.
Wow.
So as opposed to it's 10 or 15% humanities, and then another 10 or 15% social sciences, and a couple of undeclared majors. So a lot of people interested in science and math and engineering and all that sort of stuff, which was actually why I originally went to Rice. I sort of thought I was going to be an engineer, and then had a whole bunch of AP credit, which is basically just college credit that you get for taking high school classes. And so I was like, well, I could just do whatever I want for a year and still be on track to graduate in 4 years, because I've got like 33 hours of AP credit. And that turned into 4 years of doing whatever I wanted and taking lots of English classes because I liked them, and lots of ancient Mediterranean history stuff because I liked that. And sure enough, I graduated with degrees in that instead of engineering.
No kidding. All right. Nice, man. Thanks for that. What about on the YouTubes? Anybody saying anything over there?
We had Fred Daniel commented, "Gold, gentlemen. Really interesting discussion. Glad I tuned in."
Oh, man. Thanks, Fred Daniel. I appreciate that. Hopefully we'll see Fred here in about 20 minutes on the Dungeon User Show. What about chat? You guys got anything else for Arlen today? Are any of you guys going to read these books, or you going to get involved, or what do you think we should do to include the chat in the show? Anybody got any comments or thoughts on that? While we're waiting for them, Arlen, I don't know if we mentioned it, but the introduction to the Claw was pretty cool as well. Just that they were obviously Lessines. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah. There's the kind of factions within the Empire are one of the big things, right? Because there's all these different groups and different organizations. There's sort of the military, which is divided into different groups, but then there's also the Claw, and there's also the various kind of attached units within the military that don't seem to be kind of quite the same level of membership, sort of auxiliary units almost in Roman terms. And everybody's got a rank and a title and all that sort of stuff. So it gets a little hard to keep track of sometimes, but if you can pay attention to it, it's interesting, and it tells you a lot about the kind of workings of the Empire. And eventually, of course, the workings of all the other stuff, because all of these other characters that are like attached to Warrens have titles based on that too.
Sorry, I got sidetracked here because it's saying that something in Chrome is blocking the downloads when I've done this a million times.
Uh-oh.
Oh, it's bad news.
That's not good.
No shit. I'll figure it out. But, yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. It'll be really interesting. I'm happy to be rereading this and really delving into it. And I thought that was a really important point when we were talking about that concept of being able to say things without saying them. Show not tell, right? That's what they always say. And I feel like Erickson does a super job of that. And if you could learn that from him in your games, you're going to have a step up in having a better game.
Absolutely.
And like, I mean, I'm terrible at keeping track of those titles and things, but I think it really adds a feeling of, if you want a military feel, that's what you need to do, you know?
Yeah. Everybody has a rank. Everybody has a position, a role, something. The sense of the organization telling people kind of who they are and where they belong versus their own kind of self-reported version of that is.
What do you mean? Say that again. I don't know what you mean there.
The sense that the organization has a sort of implied
hierarchy or something.
A sense of kind of who everybody is and where they belong versus their kind of self-reported version of that. That's more of kind of who they think they are. That is, I think, a big right. Nobody is just their job. Nobody is just their rank. Nobody is any of that. But that doesn't mean that it is not sometimes easy to kind of rule of thumb simplify people down to those roles, right? And that's sort of one of the kind of themes that this book is about is people attempting to survive not just kind of physical violence, but also the sort of sense of being turned into a cog in the machine, right?
Yeah, throughout. I mean, in many different ways too. If it's not your superior officer or their superior officer or the empress or even a god, right? It's always about this cog. And I think that's kind of what that bridge burner was saying to the kid, you know,
Yep.
Keep your head low. Otherwise you're going to be in the machine.
Yeah.
So sad. Yeah. I really feel like there is a lot of relatable things in almost all books and media that you can take and use in life, right? So I feel that way anyway. My wife thinks I'm crazy for reading these books, but then I always try to explain how I really believe there is a lot of information or life lessons that you can maybe pull from these, just like the same reason that, you know, maybe more women like watching chick flicks or whatever. This is just the way we get that, or I get it as a dude. Not that I don't get it from some chick flicks because I'm the softie. I'm a big softie anyway, so I cry at all that stuff, but this is maybe my preferred way. Yeah, man, Kustash was the guy who asked about your degree, and then he lost Twitch or something. So that's unfortunate. But
Wow.
All right, we only got about 10 or 15 minutes before we're supposed to be playing Night Below. Anybody in the chat got any other questions or anything that we can help with? Arlen, you got anything else you want to mention before we take off?
No, I think we talked about everything. Anybody who's in the chat, show up next week because we're gonna keep doing this. We're talking about Malazan.
We're fired up about it, and I'm going to send Steven Erickson an email, see if he wants to be on the show. I'm sure he'll just be like, "Oh yeah, no problem." Oh, and if you have a specific guest that you might want to see, or someone that you think might be interested in like the short stories we're talking about or something else, you know, let me know. Send us an email. You can certainly reach me at hnfhobbs@gmail.com. Oh shit. I want to put it in this chat, but that's not going to help people on hnfhobbs@gmail.com. So some of the logistics we haven't figured out as far as the Libram Society goes, but I got some artists working on it. I got a musician working on some music maybe. So, man, it should be sweet, Arlen. I'm chuffed.
I don't think that's exactly what chuffed means. But
It's not?
Well, it's more sedate than that, I think.
Oh, it is? It doesn't seem like it. It seems like it.
Sort of like kind of like
Yeah, man, I'm chuffed.
right, compared to like raucous laughter.
Well, that's bullshit. I'm like Tiger Woods in it over here. I'm chuffed, man. I'm pumped.